It's December 13th, 2019, and this is episode 8 of Film Cult Podcast. If you're joining me again, thank you so much for listening to the new episode. And if this is your first time, this is a podcast about movies, new movies, old movies, anywhere in between, um, on a technical and, um, I guess, critical aspect of reviewing movies. So, if you can, last week's episode we explored some new titles, and if you're interested in any one of those, we explored Honey Boy, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and The Irishman, um, which are all out now, respectively in theaters or on Netflix. So, if you want to catch any of those titles, go listen to that episode. But now, today's episode plays a little more truer to form of the show because we are just picking three movies at random. They did not come out this year. Um, they came out whenever they came out, whether it be 1992, 1942, and so on and so forth. So, before I get into that, though, there was one thing I missed last week that I usually do, as in within these 8 episodes. When I go to the movies, I like to talk about the trailers that I see before the film, just because not only is it a sneak preview, obviously, of what is to come, as far as what's being released, it's good to talk about which ones looked interesting, which ones didn't, especially as we get towards the new year. As we all know about film cycles and how certain months, because of award season or whatever it may be, we end up getting some pretty poor movies in January and February. But it's not always the case, you know. And but right now we're in a great time because it's right before Christmas, right before that big holiday season really hits. So there's some really good movies that are coming out within the next few weeks, and that's what I'm basically about to talk about. Um, Bombshell is the upcoming American drama film. Director Jay Roach, written by Charles Randolph. Has a lot of big names, big actresses in here. Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, Margot Robbie, um, as well as John Lithgow is in this movie. Allison Janney is in this movie. Just some other big actors and actresses. Stephen Root's in this movie. I love Stephen Root. HBO's Barry or Get Out. Just a couple of his other films, TV shows. This movie is about a bunch of Fox News women news anchors who are set out to expose the CEO at the time, who was Roger Ailes, for sexual harassment. And to be honest, I'm really surprised this is the only movie that has come out so far about this type of thing, because obviously, if you follow any sort of news, I don't watch Fox News. I don't know who Roger Ailes is, but you don't need to just understand the whole sexual harassment exposing that happened within the last couple of years. It's been actually like a crazy amount, as we all know. So, yeah, I'm surprised there isn't more. I'm sure there's been a lot of documentaries. I remember watching a Weinstein documentary, like about his sexual assault, and but I'm surprised this is the first like big feature film about it, especially because there's always that niche of like journalism expose kind of thing, like the like Spotlight and the Post and like those types of movies. I haven't seen either of those, but I know that certain genre of like I just said, journalism and like exposing a big controversial thing, like that's like a big movie making topic. So yeah, that was it's funny to talk about too that I saw this trailer in the movies, and then I saw this trailer again while I was watching TV at my house, and just the way that it's differently marketed between both of those is just interesting. I feel like the one on TV that I saw, I'm not sure what network I saw it on now that I'm thinking about it, but it seemed to just be a little more lighthearted. It's not the right word, but just like a little bit more like it was like a comedy. Kate McKinnon is in this film as well. I don't feel like I must have skipped over her name in the list, even though it should be. Yeah, it was right there. Kate McKinnon from SNL, who's a very, very funny uh, actress and comedian, and obviously being on SNL is very good with the skits and the format of Saturday Night Live. But yeah, it just seemed to play it a little less intense than the movie trailer, which I thought was interesting and just something I wanted to point out. So that is why this is up on the screen, and the film is scheduled for a limited release December 13th, that is today, followed by a wide release on December 20th. So I'm not sure if I'm going to see that movie. I'm definitely interested. It definitely looks very good. I just don't know if I'll get there as we approach onto these other films that are also equally interesting. And so yeah, we'll just hop on to the next trailer. So the next film is Richard Jewell, which is a biographical drama film, which is coming out soon, and it is directed by the one and only Clint Eastwood, who is now 89 years old and is still directing films, and they still look really good, because I can't wait to see this one. Sam Rockwell, one of my, I feel like I say everyone is my favorite, but Sam Rockwell is really one of those actors that you maybe see in a bunch of different things you probably don't even know, because he's just so into the character that he is playing in that specific movie. I love Sam Rockwell. Kathy Bates is in this film. John Hamm is in this film. Olivia Wilde. All very good actors. This movie is produced by a lot of big actors as well. You got Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill in producer credits, so that's pretty cool. This film is about, or from what I can gather from the trailer and reading about it, is about the Centennial Olympic Park bombing during the 1999 Summer Olympics, which took place in Georgia. And a security guard named Richard Jewell, hence the name, found a bomb and called everyone and called all the authorities and tried to evacuate everyone. And initially he's being praised as a hero, but as I can see from the trailer, is then wrongly accused of having placed it himself. So the trailers right now are, leaving you in suspense of whether or not he placed the bomb or if he is the hero, which I think is not funny. Obviously, they need to sell their movie and story, but this took place in 1996. If you can very quickly, well, if you were alive, you probably know the story. It's a year before I was born. But if you remember it, you know the outcome of this movie already. But to see a dramatic retelling with these big actors and very good actors, John Hamm, Kathy Bates, like I said, Sam Rockwell, these are all really good names. And the producer credits, that's just cool to have them on there. I don't know what happens when big actors like that. It's because DiCaprio and Hill were officially attached to star in this movie, but now they just remained as producers. So that's how that happens. Just little information as I'm reading and going on. But yeah, this film looks really good, and the trailers are really well done. I hate when the trailers try to give too much away. I know I just said that if you really wanted to know the outcome of this specific thing that they're talking about. Um, but yeah, good on Clint Eastwood for being almost 90 years old and still directing films. That is absolutely unbelievable. The other name I couldn't read on this poster was Paul Walter Hauser. I'm guessing that's the lead. I'm not sure, but enough about the trailers. Let's get into the actual movies that I am reviewing today. Um, so, without further ado, the first film that I will be talking about is the 2012 film End of Watch, which is starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Pena, and Anna Kendrick is also in this film. Um, this is on Netflix if you're interested in watching. Um, whether I'm just gonna decide right now if it gets my recommendation. Sure, yeah. That sounds really undecided, but this is a really good movie. Um, it's chosen to have a um POV slash handheld camera found footage type of filming style the whole entire movie, which is it kind of works, kind of doesn't for me. Um, all of the camera work is done in that particular style, and the story is what I should get into first is that Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena are cops, and they are on patrol in the I want to say Los Angeles area. Yeah, there are two young police officers in LA who are partners and friends, so it's kind of that cops on patrol type of movie, and it kind of takes that cops type of filming style with like a camera. Um, it switches from their body cams. Jake Gyllenhaal holds a personal video recorder that he's using for a project. I'm not sure if maybe I missed why he's doing that, but yeah, sometimes he's holding. This is the problem that I had with the movie that was bugging me. Just about the filming style, not the movie itself. I think the movie itself is actually pretty good, and that's why it does get my recommendation. But I will get into that. It's just that sometimes it's clear that Jake Gyllenhaal's holding a video camera, and then sometimes it's some other cameraman holding a video camera, but it's still in this point of view style. I don't know. It just seemed to bug me. Maybe that's just me, but solid acting in this movie. Something I say a lot, but holds true for this. Michael Pena, um, Jake Gyllenhaal, both very funny. There's some really good humor in this movie. It works like that for that buddy cop kind of feel. Um, Anna Kendrick and Jake Gyllenhaal as a romantic uh, couple in this film. I guess it worked. It was good. Everything was believable, and something for the fact that this came out in 2012. Um, I've seen part of this movie, but it's been so long that I kind of just decided to watch the full thing over again. Um, but this film has a supporting role of David Harbour, who we know from Stranger Things, but this is before Stranger Things, so I think it's always cool when you watch a movie. Like I could have watched this in 2012, and nobody would have known who David Harbour was, and now he just happens to have a kind of small role in this movie, End of Watch, and as Officer Van Hauser, and it was just cool to see him in there. So cool on Hopper. Um, but yeah, back into the movie. Very funny at times, very intense at other times. It's that cop on patrol. Anything could happen, kind of. Like I said, point of view camera rolling kind of thing. There's a cohesive story pulling this whole entire thing together. Um, it's not just them on patrol, even though it may seem like that. There is an overarching thing that plays out at the end, and I don't want to spoil it. Um, but this film is pretty good. Um, like I said, the chemistry between Pena and Gyllenhaal is genuine, and I've seen Michael Pena in some really crappy films. Chips, I believe. Is that him or is that Leguizamo? Oh God, I feel like I'm breaching very bad territory here. Um, it's gotta be Michael Pena, right? Um, Dak Shepard, yeah, I know that. Yeah, Michael Pena. Um, so anyway, I digress. But yeah, that movie's trash. Um, I guess that movie just totally derailed my train of thought. But yeah, I give End of Watch 2012 a recommendation if you like, not even if you like a cop movie, but if you like a um, point of view, handheld camera view of two patrolmen's lives. Because it's not just them on patrol, it's their personal lives as well. Anyway, yeah, film gets my recommendation. It's on Netflix. It doesn't cost you anything to watch it other than the subscription. We all have it, so I feel like when a film's so easily accessible, it's kind of like, why not? And that's why I put this movie on, because it was just like a why not kind of thing. But it ended up being pretty good. So, on to my second review of today. We are going back further in time to 1998 to review the comedy drama film written, co-produced, and directed by Gary Ross called Pleasantville. It stars Tobey Maguire, Jeff Daniels, Joan Allen, William H. Macy, J.T. Walsh, and Reese Witherspoon. And of course, Don Knotts is in this film. Paul Walker has a small role in this film. Pretty much certain it's his like introduction. I'm sure he's been in other roles though. Previous to this one, Mary Shelton are all in this movie. It centers around two siblings who wind up being trapped in a fictional 1950s TV show called Pleasantville, obviously. And it's more or less this idyllic utopia world. And without going more into spoilers, which I will do, but I do want to give this movie my recommendation. I don't recommend them all. I know it seems that way sometimes, but sometimes you see good movies and sometimes you see the not so good ones. And we seem to be on a roll recently, which is good. But yeah, I give this one my recommendation fully. I've never seen this movie. It's just one of those that you come across and it sounds good, so you put it on. And I was pleasantly surprised, no pun intended there, because this film kind of starts out as a just, I guess, a satire on 1950s television, and it takes place. Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon are brother and sister, and I'm going more so into the plot now. So if you wanted to see this, spoilers now. But they live in the present time of when this movie came out, so 1998. And you know how life is in the late 90s, and their parents are getting divorced, and yeah, the household situation's just all over the place, and Tobey Maguire's character is just a super fan of the show Pleasantville, and basically the setup is that he's going to watch a marathon of it when he gets home to win some contest, and they end up getting sucked into the TV. I'm not going to go into how that happens, but initially it just seems like it's going to be a movie about them learning family values or whatever through this 1950s TV show. which is it's like utopia world, but it kind of takes like more or less of a not a Twilight Zone twist, but it's cool that the technical effect of this movie, um, where now everything's in black and white because they're in this TV show, as I'm explaining, and when certain characters start to break the conformities of this 1950s Midwest town universe that they live in, and they live in just this town. There's nothing around it, obviously, and as they break the like standards of 1950s world, they start gaining color, like actual red, green, blues, like skin tones, everything. So there's like a technical creation of this movie. There's a selective set of colors that are shown at certain parts. So there's black and white. Everything's black and white, but a person's lips will be red, or their eyes will be red, and then eventually their whole face and that one whole character will be in color, but the rest of the characters around them will not be. So, as a filmmaking, from a filmmaking standpoint, I think it's cool that this was like the first feature film that used scanning and digitizing of recorded film for the purpose of like removing and changing the colors. Um, so that black and white meets color world is really unique and sets this movie apart. I'm sure once I said Pleasantville, and those who have seen it definitely have those images in their head right away. But yeah, this film goes a lot deeper than I had previously thought. Um, just from seeing the picture and the description, and was just going into it pretty much blind. Director Gary Ross stated, "The movie is about the fact that personal repression gives rise to larger political oppression. That when we're afraid of certain things in ourselves, or we're afraid to change, we project those fears onto other things, and a lot of very ugly social situations can develop." That's pretty deep for what this movie sets up. uh, and it's really good. The themes that they do explore that gets to these deeper motivations, it's really handled well. So that's why Pleasantville certainly gets my recommendation. Tobey Maguire, Reese Witherspoon, Jeff Daniels, all fantastic in this movie. The acting is really good, and William H. Macy again from, I watch Shameless still, even though it's not as good as it used to be. TV show, not movies, but same difference at this point. Are all really good in this movie, and like I said, it might not be what you're expecting initially, but it goes further, which is kind of brave for a film to do. Well, at least this film is now however many years old, coming out in 1998. But yeah, I digress. So Pleasantville, my second film, also gets my recommendation. So the third and final film that I'm reviewing today is also streaming on Netflix, and that is the 2016 film directed by Paul Schrader, that stars William Dafoe and Nicolas Cage, and it is called Dog Eat Dog. It is a action thriller movie. What can I say about this film? To put some context to it, it has a 4.7 out of 10 on IMDb. Um, Paul Schrader is someone you might not know for his director credits, but he is a writer for a lot of very good movies. Affliction, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull. Those, of course, we were just talking about Scorsese and De Niro in the previous episode about The Irishman. But just a quick little coincidence that Paul Schrader directed this movie, and it's definitely attention grabbing at first, but I do not recommend this movie. It's kind of a mess. Um, Nicolas Cage is someone that, a lot of love or hate. I think Nicolas Cage is very funny, and he's definitely cheesing it up in this movie. Um, he's doing this like weird Humphrey Bogart impression for a lot of the film. I don't know why. Definitely towards the later half of it, it just devolves. But anyway, William Dafoe is also in this movie. I'm not sure why. He's a great actor. I'm not saying that Nicolas Cage isn't, but this is a trio of characters. It is William Dafoe as Mad Dog. Nicolas Cage's character, I believe, is named Troy, and the third man Diesel, who is played by Christopher Matthew Cook. Um, yeah, his filmography shows me a lot. I'm just gonna read his character names for the films he's known for on his IMDb page. Here we go: Maddox, Diesel in this movie, Lycan, and Thick. He was named Thick in the 2013 movie Two Guns. CK. THICK. Okay, anyway, that's just, that's a good way to sum up a stereotyped character. He's just muscly dude. Um, but yeah, this film starts off with William Dafoe, and it's like very, the room that it's set in is like extremely pink, and he goes into a bathroom that's like lit with all these like blue light bulbs, and like the color contrast and this like weird house and setting that he's in is just like um definitely intriguing, but it just quickly devolves into like just like a stupid crime movie, like just one without substance, and like it's hard to follow, and it feels like at times that these three characters of Defoe, Cage, and Cook, just kind of like, it feels like they're playing in three different movies, even though they're sitting at a table talking to each other. um, so yeah, I didn't personally like this film. The friend that I watched it with, who lent me this microphone, as I always say, Josh, he did not like this either. Um, it just kind of felt like a waste of our time. But it's kind of funny to laugh at Nick Cage and his acting. Sometimes he's really hamming it up, and this film is without exception. And I was reading something on the trivia list that I thought was worth mentioning, so I'm gonna go to it. But yeah, this film came out in 2016. Um, it was at Cannes Film Festival that year. Um, like I said, I'm gonna just quickly browse through the trivia. There was just something about William Dafoe and how they got him on this project that I thought was interesting. Nicolas Cage paid $1,000 of his own salary to William Dafoe just to pursue him to make this movie. So he shelled out that much of his own money just to get him on this project. And that's pretty funny. It was shot in 25 days, and it was all recent film school graduates who shot the movie. There are some cool little filming techniques. I had mentioned previously in my review of Midsummer, how there was like Ari Aster used that like split mirror technique to film two different people in the same camera. Um, and this, if I remember correctly, has one shot that almost does something similar to that. But the camera is going in and out of focus to each character instead of just the whole shot being in focus. Hopefully, the screenshot that I'm showing you makes more sense of that. Or the two screenshots, the one in focus and out of focus, um, explains the idea that I'm trying to go across. Or if you want, you could just tune into that part of the movie. But yeah, this movie is not gonna get my recommendation. It's just a little too out there, and it just ended almost abruptly. And yeah, so that was Dog Eat Dog, my third and final film that I'm reviewing today on Friday the 13th, which is in December today. I'm pre-recording these, but I think that's pretty funny that maybe watch like Nightmare Before Christmas or something that makes it spooky and Christmassy. Anyway, that was my selection of films this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Got something out of it. I want to do. I have so many movies in the queue. Um, as I mentioned way back, I have an app that just shows me all the different movies that are out on each platform, and then I'm always just checking Netflix, Hulu, and Prime all the time as well. I have all these movies. I have a lot of classic movies like, um, you know, Citizen Kane and like Schindler's List and like all these movies that I've never even seen before that I know are on like every film fanatic's list, of movies you must see. And like I definitely want to explore those eventually. I just want to explore movies that are just out there as well, something that I just come across. I haven't done an animated feature yet. I wanted to definitely just cuz there's been 8 episodes now and none of them have been animated. And not that like I'm excluding that. It just happened to have happened that way. So, yeah, I want to maybe do the Leica animation series, Coraline and Missing Link and all of those movies. I haven't seen in a very long time, Coraline at least, but maybe do that. Yeah, so I have so much to get to, and hopefully I can continue doing this every single Friday. Uh, Pre-recording these, as I mentioned, definitely can make it go faster because I'm not waiting. I can watch as many films as I possibly want to. So, anyway, thank you to everyone who listened this week. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. Send me an email at filmcultpodcast@gmail.com. Would love to hear your music suggestions. Sure, movie suggestions more so. And whatever else you care to mention. Yeah, email me at filmcultpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, I am Chris, your host. This has been Film Cult Podcast. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Friday the 13th.